So how does it work? How these two coefficients are actually working? Um, we have we have a curve. Okay, we have two measures: the Gini coefficients and the Lorentz curve. The Lorentz curve is actually built with the Gini coefficient. Yeah. Here you find a table which is a Lorentz curve. We have two axes, the y-axis and the x-axis. In the x-axis, we can see the deciles, and in the y-axis, the expenditure. Okay, so basically this table will measure the expenditure of the accumulated population. Yeah, sorting from the poorest to the richest. So that means here in the zero, of course, the zero population owns zero expenditure or zero properties or zero money. As we advance and then we reach, for example, the 20%, we can see, or the 40%, we can see that the 40% owns around more or less 500 in money or expenditure units, and 80% owns 1,000, and 100% owns something like 6,000. Okay, so this is how it works. This curve is actually not very clear, so we'll clarify a bit the different concepts. The Gini coefficient is a measure of statistical dispersion intended to represent the income or wealth distribution of a nation of residents, and is the most commonly used for a measure of inequality. So it measures the inequality among values of a frequency distribution, for example, level of incomes. So that's what I meant before. In the y-axis, you will have level of incomes. In the x-axis, the accumulated percentage of the population owning these incomes. A coefficient of 0 expresses perfect equality. A Gini coefficient of 1, 100% expresses maximum inequality. Okay, so we know from 0 perfect equality, 1 maximum inequality. Okay, more examples. This is the formula of the Gini coefficient, which is not very interesting for us. We are not going to do calculations with Gini, but what is important is to understand is that this G value, this Gini, measures the curve, the distance between the perfect 45 degrees curve and or Lorentz curve at each combination of points. So this is, and obviously the bigger the coefficient is, the more unequal, because farther the curve is from the 45 degrees, the Lorentz curve. So again, just to clarify this, the Lorentz diagram plots the cumulative share of consumption expenditure against the cumulative share of households. A 45 curve will indicate that there is a perfect equality between all households, and the farther the Lorentz curve is away from the 45 degrees line, the more unequal the population is. A measure for this inequality is the Gini coefficient, which measures the distance between the 45 degrees and the Lorentz curve. The Gini coefficient takes the value between 0 and 1, where 0 stands for unlikely perfect equality and 1 for the equal unlikely total inequality. Okay, this is more or less what we explained before, but again, we are fully going to explain it with the case of Namibia. So imagine we have in the y-axis this P, which is the population, and this L of P, which is a function of the population. In that case, can be the money. Okay, the money, the financial resources owned by the population. What is this curve basically indicating us? This curve is indicating that 20% in this 0.2, 20% of the population will own, I don't know, maybe 5%. Okay, let's take the 0.4. 0.4% or 40% of the population will own, because this is both standardized from 0 to 1, what makes it easier for us to understand. Okay, so this is 0, 100% of the population. 0, 100% of the financial resources for the whole country. So 40% of the population owns approximately 1% of the money in the country. 60% owns more or less 20% of the money in the country. 80% owns more or less almost 40% of the money in the country. So if I ask you how much money is owned by the richest 20% of the population in Namibia, yeah, then you should check how much is owned by the 80% poorest of the country. So that means this part from 0 to 80% represents the 80% poorest, because remember, this is sorted, okay, from poorest to richest. And we find that it's approximately 35, I think, I would say 35, 36% of the total incomes of the country. So that means the richest 20% will own the rest, approximately, yeah, I don't think so, it's 35, I think it's 0.3, 30%. Okay, the 80% poorest owns 30% of the money in the country. So that means the 30% richest owns the 70%. That means this society is unequal as compared to a perfect equality indicated by this 40 degrees line, because this 40 degrees line will indicate that 20% of the population owns 20% of the financial resources. 40% of the population owns 40% of financial resources, and so on, so on, so on. Okay? So, as a final exercise, you should check in this link, which is the measure of Gini coefficient for Namibia, and as well as comparing it to other countries, okay? Maybe other countries from the area, like Zimbabwe, South Africa, Zambia, Botswana, just to see how we are within our geographical context. Okay, so this is the end for the course material. Please remember to make use of all the resources I put there. If you have questions, I will try to answer them as quick as possible. Yeah, thank you very much. Hopefully we'll see you soon face to face.